So you're the scoundrel I've been looking for.
Oh, what is going on? My God! Wait!
This is for murder, you
Stop!
bastard!
Sir, official correspondence has arrived.
Thank you, Butler. This is nonsense. I shouldn't have to go to court over some swindler like Gatsby.
Darling, it's okay. I know you had nothing to do with it. I'll invite Nick, and he'll prove that you didn't have anything to do with it.
Great.
This is a hearing to assess whether or not we should proceed to trial. This is a legal proceeding. Present today are Tom Buchanan, his wife Daisy Buchanan, Nick Carraway, a cousin of Mrs. Buchanan, potential witness, and Tom Buchanan's butler, who is also a witness. Anything said in this room can be used against or to exonerate the defendant. We have brought in Mr. Tom Buchanan for this hearing since we have received reports that he's involved with Mr. Gatsby and Mr. Wilson. Mr. Gatsby was murdered while Mr. Wilson took his own life. Although it is reported that Mr. Buchanan did not pull the trigger that resulted in Mr. Gatsby's death, Mr. Buchanan is accused of being a willing accomplice. Is it true, Mr. Buchanan?
Well, yes, that it is true, but I don't see why that's...
Did you see Mr. Gatsby and Mr. Wilson the day before their deaths?
Yes. In fact, I spoke to the two of them the previous night.
Well, did the two have any history of conflicts or interactions at all?
As far as I'm concerned, the two have never met before.
Do you have any idea how this possibly could have happened? Because Mr. Wilson could not have shot Mr. Gatsby for no reason.
Your Honor, perhaps it was Mr. Gatsby that had the affair with Myrtle Wilson.
Your Honor, that is simply not true. It is simply not true.
Proceed, Mr. Carraway.
Well, this is simply not true. In actuality, Mr. Tom Buchanan has been having an affair on his wife for weeks with Miss Wilson, deceiving not only his own wife, but also Mr. Wilson. A few weeks ago, I went on a road trip to town. I even visited their gas station and repair shop, and I saw once Tom and Myrtle looked at each other, I knew something was up. And then we went out to town again, and I even saw they had a secret apartment together, so they've been living with each other for a while.
Nick, are you attempting to defend this dirty swindler? You hardly knew the man!
Well, I not only knew him better, but I cared about him more than everyone else here. At least I can treat people I know right instead of abusing them.
What do you mean? I never touch.
You stopped Miss Wilson in your apartment. You broke her nose, your own mistress.
You lying bastard! You have no proof of this!
Tom, how could you say that? You use violence against me if I dare say a word against you. And you didn't even hide the fact that you were seeing her behind my back. And her telephone calls during dinner, and you would always go to answer them.
Daisy, you promised never to tell anyone about this.
Tom, I can't live like this anymore and live a lie. I even fear for our daughter's safety.
Mr. Buchanan, this is a serious case. Even if special abuse does not relate to the case of Mr. Wilson and Mr. Gatsby's death, we'll need to address that later in addition. But for now, would you tell us when and where you saw Mr. Wilson last?
I saw him at the gas station after Myrtle died.
And did you speak with him at all?
Yes, I tried to comfort him, but it was of no use.
Well, did you perhaps say anything that would have provoked him?
No, Your Honor, he only wanted to know who the owner of the yellow car was.
And?
I just told him it was Mr. Gatsby.
Well, did you know after that, Mr. Wilson went on to murder Mr. Gatsby in his own house?
Well, I didn't know he was going to go after Mr. Gatsby and kill him.
Mr. Buchanan, even if Mr. Gatsby did kill Mrs. Wilson, you should not have interfered and told this information to a grieving man who is bound to do reckless action in the heat of the moment.
So what? That had nothing to do with me. What Mr. Wilson did was on his own accord, and I intend to stay out of it.
Mr. Buchanan, I'm afraid that this makes you an accessory to the murder of Mr. J. Gatsby and to the suicide of Mr. Wilson. I decree that Mr. Buchanan is hereby found guilty of third-degree murder of Mr. J. Gatsby and indirectly causing the suicide of Mr. Wilson and domestic abuse towards the now deceased Mrs. Myrtle Wilson and Mrs. Daisy Buchanan. The punishment is a minimum 20 years jail time. This hearing is no longer in session. Case closed.